I'm sorry, Mr. Delaney, said Kyle Bennett as he handed me a thick envelope. Inside was a full report, timelines, photos, and even a USB stick. All of it focused on my wife, Rachel, and her long-time relationship with her former supervisor, Scott Harper. I flipped through the photos briefly, my hands already starting to shake. I hadn't watched the video yet. Part of me didn't want to, but I knew I couldn't ignore it forever. How long? I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. Kyle checked his tablet. Best estimate is around 10, maybe 11 years. Looks like it started back when Rachel was up for that executive promotion, which would have been just after your son, Lucas, was born. 11 years. My chest tightened. I couldn't believe it. And, Scott, I asked, my jaw clenched. He's been with other married women too, right? Kyle gave a small nod. According to what we found, yeah, he's got a bit of a pattern. You may want to get tested, just to be safe. Especially if you and Rachel have, been close since her early retirement. That thought hit me like a punch to the gut. I stared at a line in the report, highlighted by Kyle's assistant. Apparently, Rachel hadn't known about Scott's other relationships. That made it somehow worse. Not only had she lied to me, but she'd been lied to as well. If it helps, Kyle added, Scott told one of our undercover guys that he never wanted to break up your marriage. He claimed it was just physical. I scoffed. And nothing happened in my house. Nothing, he replied quickly. We had cameras set up just in case, but everything we found happened elsewhere. Hotels, business trips, her car once or twice, but never your home. I didn't feel comforted, not even a little. There's one more thing, Kyle said. Scott's sister, Hannah, might have helped keep it quiet. She knew. That one stung. Hannah had always been close with Rachel, practically family. My stomach churned. Have you talked to a lawyer? Kyle asked gently. I shook my head. Wanted to know the full truth first. If you're open to it, I recommend Melanie Parker. She's sharp and doesn't mess around. I can send her this report if you'd like. I nodded, pocketing the business card. Yeah, please do. Just promise me one thing, Kyle said before I left. Let your attorney guide you. Don't go nuclear, no matter how bad it feels. This isn't Reddit. It's your life. You've got kids. Be smart. I managed a weak smile. I hear you. After settling the invoice, I walked out of his office feeling like the air had been sucked from my lungs. I sat in my car for 15 minutes before the tears came. When they did, I didn't fight them. Once I got myself together, I called Melanie's office to schedule an appointment. They needed documents, so I drove home to gather what I could: bank statements, retirement papers, tax returns. On the way back, I did something I hadn't done in nearly 20 years. I bought a pack of cigarettes. Then I found a bar, sat down, and ordered a beer. You all right? The bartender asked, noticing my trembling hand as I lit up. That obvious? He gave a sad smile. Unfortunately, yeah. Let me guess. Found out your wife's been stepping out on you. 11 years, I said, exhaling smoke through clenched teeth. Damn, he muttered. That's a long con. But hey, my granddad always said, I cried because I had no shoes, then I met a man with no feet. It sucks now, but it gets better. Don't drown it in beer. Handle your business. Wise man, I said. One of the best, he replied. Now finish that beer and head home. The answers you need aren't in that glass. I nodded, and for the first time that day, felt a sliver of clarity. As I sipped, my mind reeled through every red flag I'd once brushed off. After Lucas was born, I got a vasectomy. Still, Rachel kept renewing her birth control. She said it helped with her hormones. I believed her. She also started traveling more for work. Said she had to wine and dine clients. I used to joke about her dressing like she was heading to a red carpet instead of a boardroom. She laughed it off. Sometimes I'd call her on trips. She always answered, always claimed to be alone. But once or twice I thought I heard something, a laugh, a second voice. Another time, I could have sworn I smelled cologne on her scarf, a scent I didn't wear. And then, after she retired, she kept going back to help the company 1 or 2 days a week. Just small consulting gigs, she said. Turns out, that was when the meetups with Scott started again. For 11 years, she looked me in the eyes every day, kissed me, slept beside me, all while living another life. It wasn't a slip. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a routine, a pattern, a choice. And choices come with consequences. I drained the last sip of my beer, gave the bartender a silent nod, and stepped into the cold night air. The drive home was a blur, headlights streaking past as I rehearsed what I might say to her, if I said anything at all. When I pulled into the garage, I noticed her SUV already parked inside. That was unexpected. As I stepped through the door, I found her in the kitchen. Rachel barely glanced at me, then her nose twitched. "You've been smoking?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "And drinking?" I didn't deny it. "Rough day," I muttered. "What happened?" she asked, her voice soft, concerned, or maybe just well-practiced. "Stuff," I said, brushing past her. "I'll be in my office." Not really in the mood for company. "You sure? Maybe I can help," she offered. "Yeah, you can rewind the last 11 years and undo everything." But I just said, "I don't think so." She hesitated, then casually added, "Oh, I'm heading out of town this weekend." Friday morning. I stopped in the hallway, turning slowly. "Again? Didn't you just come back from trip?" She shrugged. "Something urgent came up. Work stuff." "Easter here. Lucas's birthday party is Saturday." "I know," she replied, trying to sound apologetic. "But I really can't get out of this one. Can you just explain it to him for me?" "No," I said flatly. "You missed Mia's recital last month. You missed our anniversary dinner last year. You can explain to your son why seeing Scott matters more than showing up for his birthday." She winced. "You're being unfair, Evan." "No, Rachel. I'm being real. You supposedly retired when the company changed hands. And yet you've been working more than ever. You want to tell me what's really going on?" Her expression tightened. "Are you accusing me of something?" I took a breath. "I'm asking you what you'd think if the roles were reversed." That gave her pause. Her shoulders dropped slightly. "I get it," she said. "But I swear it's just business." "So you've said," I replied, stepping into my home office. "I've got things to handle. Watch the kids tonight. Don't knock." I shut the door behind me and locked it. A few moments later, I heard her trying the knob. "Evan, please talk to me." "Not now, Rachel. I'm working." She gave up and walked away. I exhaled slowly, then pulled out the materials Melanie's office had asked for. Bank statements, joint accounts, retirement paperwork, all the assets we once built together, now tools for dismantling everything. After that, I opened a USB drive Kyle had given me. It felt like opening a wound. The videos were grainy but clear enough. There she was, my wife, smiling at him, leaning into him like she belonged there. And Scott? He looked like he knew he had won. I slipped on my headphones and forced myself to watch. "Still good for this weekend?" he asked, pulling her into a hug. "Absolutely," Rachel replied with a grin. "I don't like going too long without you." "What about Lucas's party?" "Evan's got it. He's great with the kids anyway." My stomach twisted. "I worry he's catching on," Scott said. "You're not even working anymore." "I told you," she whispered. "I'm not walking away from this. Family matters, sure, but so do we. And if he finds out, I'll handle it. He's been blind for 11 years. I doubt he'll open his eyes now." Scott smirked. "You think we can keep this going?" "As long as we want," she said, dead serious. I ripped the headphones off and shut the laptop. Enough. A knock came again at the door. "The kids are heading to bed," she said softly. "Can you come say goodnight?" I composed myself as best I could. "Yeah, 1 second." Upstairs, Lucas was curled up under his space-themed blanket, eyes wide. "You okay, Dad?" I smiled through the ache. "I'm good, buddy. Just tired. You get some sleep now." "I love you," he whispered. "Love you more." After kissing him goodnight, I grabbed a fresh shirt from the laundry room and made my way downstairs. Rachel had kept a plate of dinner warm for me. "I'm not hungry," I said, heading straight for the patio. I needed air. Outside, I lit another cigarette. The first one hadn't dulled the rage, so maybe the second would. She followed me out, stepping into the chilly air without a jacket. "Evan, talk to me," she said, wrapping her arms around herself. "You haven't smoked in over a decade." "We don't always get what we want," I said without looking at her. "What are you talking about?" "It's too late." "Too late for what?" I turned to her finally. "You're smart. Figure it out." She looked stunned. "I'm trying to understand, Evan. Just give me space." She reached out, and for a second, I almost let her touch me, out of habit. But I pulled back. "I'm sorry," I said, voice cooler now. "Work stress. Maybe I'll feel better in a few days." I hated lying, but lying to a liar didn't feel so wrong. She nodded slowly. Okay, she whispered, her eyes glassy. She turned and walked back inside. I finished 2 more cigarettes under the stars, then showered to wash away the smoke and the last trace of softness I had left for her. When I finally climbed into bed, she reached out, as if everything was normal. I turned away. Evan, she whispered. I didn't respond. Good night, Rachel, I said coldly as I turned away. I heard her crying softly behind me, but I didn't flinch. I had nothing left to offer. The next morning, I kept my routine as normal as I could. Got the kids ready for school, made breakfast, packed lunches, the usual. Rachel hovered nearby, trying to act like nothing was wrong. When I reached for my jacket, she asked quietly, "No goodbye kiss?" I blew her a distant air kiss over my shoulder. "Take care. I love you," she called after me. "Yeah, you too," I said, already halfway out the door. At work, I could barely concentrate. My manager called me into his office and, after one look at my face, offered me a few days off. "Handle whatever you need to handle," he said. That afternoon, I had my meeting with Melanie Parker. "Mr. Delaney," she greeted me warmly. "Let's get to it." We sat down and walked through every painful detail. "I want full custody," I said right away, "and as much as I can reasonably get." Melanie leaned back in her chair. "Just so you know, judges often favor the mother." "I've been the primary parent for over 10 years, I interrupted. "I do the school runs. I do the doctor visits. She's barely home." She nodded. "That helps. We'll lead with that." She reviewed the financial statements I'd brought. "Looks like Rachel came out very well from the company's sale. Her passive income alone rivals your salary. So no alimony, right?" I asked. "Minimal, if anything," she confirmed. "She's healthy, still in her 40s. They won't expect you to support someone fully capable of working." "Can I ask for child support?" I said. "If we get custody in your favor, absolutely. And the house. If you're awarded custody, we'll push for you to stay in the home. She'd likely have to cover part of the mortgage, or we could agree to sell it and divide the proceeds." "That might be cleaner," I admitted. "As for your retirement," she continued, "your 401k is safe, and we'll negotiate a fair split on any joint savings." I hesitated before asking the next question. "Can we go after Scott Harper directly?" Melanie sighed. "Not in this state, unfortunately. There's no legal avenue for alienation of affection here. We can bring him up in court to strengthen your narrative, but it won't lead to a financial win." "What about his sister, Hannah?" She helped cover it up. Melanie raised an eyebrow. "We can include her in the documentation if you'd like. Might help paint the full picture." "When can we file everything?" "Friday," she said confidently. "If you want her served while she's with Scott, we can make that happen. Saturday afternoon works?" "That's the plan." Shock and awe. Melanie smiled slightly. "There's a premium for weekend service, just so you know." "Not a problem," I replied. We shook hands, and, as I handed her the retainer check, she looked me in the eye. "No sabemos. Let the process work for you." I nodded. "Understood." On the drive home, I actually felt something I hadn't in weeks control. When I got to the house, Rachel's car was already parked in the garage. That was strange. Wednesdays, she usually stayed late. Inside, the smell of pot roast met me at the door. She greeted me from the kitchen with a bright smile. "Hey, you're home early." "Yeah," I said, keeping my tone casual. "How was your day?" she asked, her voice soft. "Better than yesterday," I replied. "I made dinner. Pot roast. Want a plate?" "Sure," I said, sliding into my usual chair. "Smells good." She served me a generous portion, clearly trying to play the doting wife role again. I studied her as she moved around the kitchen. "Did you go into the office today?" I asked casually. "For a few hours," she replied. "Just prepping for the weekend." "You talked to Lucas yet?" "Yeah, he's disappointed, but he'll be okay," she said quickly, avoiding my eyes. "Kids upstairs, in their rooms. Homework." I nodded slowly. "So, you're still going through with this weekend trip?" "It's just business, Evan," she said, almost automatically. I leaned back. "Sure, business." Her jaw tightened slightly. "Why do you say it like that?" "Because you're retired. But somehow you're still working more than ever." She paused. "They just need my input. I have experience they can't replace." "Sounds like you're on the payroll again." "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked, defensive now. "Nothing," I said, standing up. Enjoy the meal. It's good. After dinner, I changed into sweats and helped the kids with their homework. We read a chapter from Lucas's school book before bed. Rachel hovered nearby, but didn't push anything. Back in my office, I locked the door behind me and started organizing files for Melanie. A few minutes later, she knocked. Evan, are you going to sleep in there again? Yeah, I replied through the door. Still not feeling great. Don't want you getting sick before your trip. There was a pause. Okay, feel better. I love you. I waited a moment before responding. You too. The next day passed much the same. Thursday night, though, she tried again, this time wearing the sheer nightgown I used to love. But knowing everything I knew, her body held no magic for me anymore. I'm sorry, Rachel, I said, rubbing my temple. I think a migraine's coming on. She looked crushed. Oh, all right. She turned out the light and slid under the covers without another word. I lay on the futon in my office, staring at the ceiling fan. One more day. I'll be staying in the office again tonight, I said without looking up. Rachel didn't argue. She just nodded, a single tear slipping down her cheek as she turned and left me alone. By the next afternoon, she called while I was on my lunch break. Evan, I'm heading out now. Just wanted to check in, see how you're feeling, she said with a careful tone. Maybe when I get back Monday, we can talk, reconnect. Thanks for letting me know, I replied, voice cool and detached. I love you, Evan, she added, waiting for a response. Sure. Safe travels. And I hung up. The moment the call ended, I rang Melanie Parker. Everything's ready to file, she told me. We'll have her served at 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. At Scott's place, just like you asked. And Hannah, I asked. She'll be served Monday morning. We're not leaving any loose ends. Thank you, I said. Then I moved on to the next piece of the plan. I placed a carefully packed bag on the entryway table. Inside it, Rachel's altered wedding gown, my wedding band, our shredded marriage license, and a short handwritten note. The bag would be delivered to Scott's front door at the exact time the papers were served. Same moment, same address. I added $250 cash for the delivery crew. I'll see to this myself, Mr. Delaney, the young mover promised as he loaded the bag into the van. Appreciate it, I said. That night, I reheated leftovers, turned on the game, and for the first time in weeks, slept in the master bedroom. Alone. Saturday came fast. Rachel's parents, June and Warren, arrived with the kids around noon. I was already outside, setting up decorations for Lucas's birthday party. I'd picked up the cake Rachel had ordered earlier that morning and hid it in the fridge. Balloons lined the fence. A bounce house stood ready on the grass. I didn't want Lucas to miss a thing. You've been busy, June said, stepping inside with a basket of drinks. I had to be, I replied. I just hope everything goes smoothly. The kids will have fun, she reassured me. Then her expression turned cautious. Lucas mentioned Rachel's not coming today. She's not, I said, and I don't think she'll be around much longer. Warren furrowed his brow. Is everything all right between you two? I ushered the kids upstairs with snacks and movies so we could talk alone. No, it's not all right, I admitted. I'm divorcing Rachel. What? June gasped. What? Warren demanded. She's been in an affair. With her old boss. For 11 years. Both of them looked stunned. You're sure? June whispered. I hired a private investigator. I have the full report. I'd like to see that, Warren said. I'll get it, I said, heading to my office while June stayed behind to finish party prep. A few minutes later, I handed Warren the folder. As he read, his expression darkened. 11 years, he muttered. Scott Harper, that arrogant idiot. He closed the folder and handed it back. I am sorry, Evan. I didn't raise her, but I sure didn't expect this. I know, I said, emotion creeping into my voice. I loved her. I gave her everything. What happens to Scott? Warren asked. I filed a civil case for emotional distress. Hannah too. Warren scoffed. Just a lawsuit? After all that? I can't afford to go off the rails. I have 2 kids to protect. He nodded. That's the right call. But don't worry, Scott's not getting off clean. What do you mean? Let's just say. I have my own plans, he said with a knowing smile. You won't be involved. But that man won't sleep as easily as he used to. I didn't press further. Back in the backyard, June had everything running like clockwork. Lucas's face lit up when he saw the setup. "Dad, this is amazing," he said, hugging me. "Thank you. I wish your mom could see it too," he added. I smiled gently. "We'll take lots of pictures, buddy. You can show her later." He nodded, then ran off to the bounce house. By 4:30, guests began arriving. Parents dropped off their kids, classmates, neighbors, little cousins. Laughter filled the backyard, and for a few hours, the world felt almost normal again. Then the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Hannah and her husband, Mark, with their daughter, Sophie. "Hey," I said, masking my surprise. "Didn't think we'd see you today." Hannah smiled politely. Sophie really wanted to come. We thought it'd be good for her. "Come in," I said, motioning them inside. Sophie darted out back with the others. I offered them drinks, which they accepted. But Hannah seemed tense, studying my face. "You okay, Evan?" she asked carefully. "You and Rachel? Why do you ask?" "Well, you're not wearing your ring." I glanced down at my hand. The indentation was still there. "I returned it," I said. "Figured she might want it back. Or maybe Scott will want to pick out a new one." Her face went pale. "What do you mean?" "Come on, Hannah," I said sharply. "No more pretending. I know everything. 11 years. Every text. Every meeting. I know you help cover for them." "Evan, don't insult me by denying it. If you have any decency, don't lie to my face." She looked away, blinking rapidly. "Rachel still loves you." She lied. She betrayed. "If that's love, I don't want it." "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "You stood by while she destroyed our marriage. You chose loyalty to your brother over honesty with me." Mark stayed silent beside her, jaw tight. He hadn't known either, it seemed. "Well," I said, clapping my hands once. "Kids are out back. Let's keep this day about them." "So what's next?" Hannah asked, her voice trembling. I checked my watch. "They'll be served in about 30 minutes. Her face blanched. "Served? You mean legal papers?" "Divorce papers for Rachel. Civil lawsuit for Scott. And as for you," I turned to her, locking eyes. "You'll get your turn Monday morning." Her jaw dropped. "Me? What, why? I didn't do anything." "Exactly," I said sharply. "You didn't stop it. You didn't warn me. You smiled in my face for years while knowing the truth. My investigator believes you even helped coordinate some of their meetings." "I was your friend, Evan," she pleaded. "I never wanted this to happen." "No," I said, the words like ice. "You were never my friend. You were just another piece in their cover-up. You sat in my home, ate at my table, hugged my kids, while lying straight to my face." "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "It's not enough," I replied. "Not for 11 years of betrayal. Not for what you let them do to my family." "It wasn't like that," she protested. "At first it was complicated. Scott pressured her, and Rachel went along with it because of the promotion. But she didn't want it. And after she supposedly retired," I asked, raising an eyebrow, "was Scott still pressuring her then?" "That was her decision," Hannah admitted quietly. "I thought it would stop, but she kept going back." I shook my head. "She made her choice, and you played your part." "I really am sorry, Evan," she whispered again. "You can be sorry somewhere else," I said firmly. "Gather your family and leave." She nodded, silent now. As she turned to walk away, I added, "And Hannah." She looked back, her face streaked with tears. "Don't come back here. Ever." She said nothing, just walked out with Mark and Sophie, leaving the party behind them. Across town, in a house where blinds were drawn tight, Rachel and Scott were lying in his bed, wrapped in warm sheets and poor decisions. Her phone buzzed. She assumed it was a text from me, maybe photos from Lucas's party. Instead, it was a message from Hannah. "He knows. It's over." Rachel sat bolt upright. Her skin went pale. "Oh no." "What?" Scott asked, groggy. She stared at her phone. "It's Hannah. Evan knows everything." He sat up slowly. "Are you sure?" She wouldn't text that if she wasn't serious. Rachel was already throwing on her robe. "I need to get home." Scott frowned. "Is that really a good idea? He could be waiting for you." "I don't care. I can't just sit here." Before either of them could move further, the doorbell rang. They froze. Scott pulled on jeans and a t-shirt while Rachel stood barefoot, frozen in the hallway. Together, they crept downstairs. When Scott opened the door, a man in a crisp blazer and neutral expression stood waiting. Can I help you? Scott asked, feigning casualness. Are you Mr. Scott Harper? Yes. And is Rachel Delaney present? That's me, Rachel said, stepping forward. The man pulled out a tablet and scanned a barcode. I'll need to see some identification, please. Why? Scott asked. The man didn't answer, just gestured calmly. After checking their licenses, he handed them both thick envelopes. You've officially been served. Rachel clutched the envelope like it was a live grenade. There's also a restraining order, the man added. You are both legally prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Mr. Evan Delaney, his residence, workplace, or his children's school. Violation is subject to immediate arrest. Rachel's face drained of color. Scott was speechless. Have a good day, the man said, turning and walking away. They were still frozen when a second man approached from a nearby car, dressed in a hoodie and jeans. Rachel Delaney? Yes, she said faintly. I've got a delivery for you. He held out a sealed paper bag with a handwritten envelope clipped to the top. There's also a few more items in the van. Rachel took the bag with shaking hands. Inside, she found her altered wedding dress, Evan's wedding ring, a printed, torn copy of their marriage license, and a brief handwritten note. 11 years. That's how long you looked me in the eye and lied. I won't make the same mistake again. You wanted this life. Now you have it. The cash tip for the movers sat untouched at the bottom of the bag. Rachel stood there, barefoot on Scott's porch, the man she'd risked everything for beside her. And for the first time in years, she felt the weight of the choices she couldn't undo. The last box clicked into place near the wall, and the delivery guy gave a polite nod before leaving through the still-cracked front door. Scott stood quietly, watching Rachel. She hadn't moved since accepting the brown paper bag. Her hands were trembling, her eyes locked somewhere far beyond the room. Neither of them spoke. The silence was deafening. I thought he'd calm down, she finally whispered, barely audible. Scott shifted his weight. You knew this might happen. Not like this, she said, voice thin. Not this final. Her eyes drifted to the sealed boxes. Every label bore her name, her handwriting, her life, now boxed and transferred like she was being returned to sender. She looked at Scott then, not with anger, not with passion, but with the cold clarity of someone waking up from a very long, very beautiful lie. I lied to him for 11 years, she said. And for what? Scott opened his mouth to answer, but no words came. Rachel didn't wait. She moved slowly to the kitchen, opened a drawer, and placed something inside. Then she walked back into the living room, eyes sweeping over the scene one last time. The polished floors, the unfamiliar walls, the man she once imagined her future with. I need to call a lawyer, she said quietly. Scott nodded. Me too. She hesitated at the edge of the hallway, hand resting lightly on the doorframe. He doesn't want to destroy us, Scott, she murmured. He just wants us gone. Scott didn't respond. And then, without another word, she stepped away, disappearing down the hall, leaving Scott alone in the echo of his own choices. He looked around the room, the carefully delivered boxes, the silent phone, the fading smell of cardboard and regret. And for the first time, he realized this was it. There was no next time, no apology that would ever undo what had already unraveled. Only silence and loss.